Every story matters. Those are three words that have become so important to me as an educator as I've seen them play out before my eyes. Those three words, the stories that we hold. I have watched a story change a child's life. I have watched a story break the hardest heart of an adult. If you think about the history that we pass down our history through stories. Whether that's Noah and the Ark, whether that's Rosa Parks, or whether that is Grandma's favorite recipe. We learn through stories and we connect through stories. We do that through the stories that we tell, but also through the stories that we consume. And it's important for all of us to remember that we share those stories. And so I think about this book that I just released called Stories from Webb, and I thought about all these stories from my staff members, and I thought, the people that I work with every day are brilliant, and they all have so many things to say, but none of them really believe that their stories matter, because as educators, what do? We see so many other people and say, they are so much better than us. But what I've found is that every single story matters, and it's important that we tell all of them. And so when putting this story together and having my staff share their stories, whether it was the nurse or the school counselor or the secretary or the teacher or the instructional aide, I wanted them to share their hearts, their experiences, their successes, and their failures. I remember one of the stories in the book is about one of the teachers who suffered several miscarriages in her life. And she wrote about the pain of going through that and wondering why this is happening. And as the book came out and the staff began to read it, she came to me a couple days after and said, Todd, the most amazing thing happened. She said, someone came to me, and she said they just came up and they just gave me a hug and cried. And I asked, what's wrong? And they just said, thank you. Thank you for sharing that story, because it made me feel like I wasn't alone in what I went through in my life. And that's the power that stories hold in our lives. I love this quote from Maya Angelou that says, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. So let me tell you a story. There was a little boy at our school that we had spent several years connecting with. He had a lot of difficulty in expressing himself verbally and correctly. He very quickly got upset over the most minute things. And he would let that eat at him until he exploded. And he knew no other way to communicate than through physical actions, often not even being able to use any words at all. But when he wasn't angry, he was one of the sweetest kids at the school, always ready with a hug and with a hello. We do an event every Christmas that our parent-teacher organization puts on. And what this event is just a family event that the families can come to with their kids, play games, watch a movie. We have lots of families that attend. And I remember he came to me the day of the event and said, Mr. Nesloney, can I come tonight? And I said, sure, we'd love for you to come. I said, just make sure that your family comes with you so that you have a ride home. And he said, well, they're not going to come. And I said, well, then we'll have to see if you can come with somebody else, or else we'll just have to see you tomorrow and we can celebrate tomorrow. And he said, okay. And he left. And I remember that event that night. It was a great event. I all finished. As the principal, I'm responsible for locking the doors. So I go to the front doors and I lock them. And as I'm walking through our front office way, I see him asleep on the couch in the office. He had stayed that night. His family did not come. They did not know or care where he was. And I tapped him on the shoulder, and he said, is it over? And I said, yes. I said, let's go. I'm going to take you home. Because I knew where he lived, because we had made several home visits to his home before. And I remember us driving home in complete silence. And as we got there, I opened the door, he got out, and he looked at me and said, thank you for the ride home, Mr. Nesloney. And for a little boy who often couldn't find the right words to communicate his emotions, in that moment, it broke me. Because as educators, we are often the only people that that child feels like cares about them. Because we have so many kids coming from hurting homes. But more than just us telling our stories, like the story I just told you, it's important for us to consume stories as well. And so I think about the importance of that in and of itself. You know, as with all my educators that I work with, I always talk about the most important thing that you can be doing as an adult human being is reading. Because reading is the number one way to build empathy in someone. And when you think about our world and our country today, empathy is needed more than it has ever been in our history. But the only way you truly build empathy is making sure that the literature that you are consuming does not always reflect you. That you are reading about characters who have a different skin color, or religion, or sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. Because that is how you understand them. These are some of the favorite books that I have read over this year. My good friend Travis Crowder is a secondary teacher in North Carolina, and he gives me 3 to 5 books every single week that's like, this one's going to push your thinking. This one's going to make you really uncomfortable. This is one you need to read. And over the last year and a half, my mind has just exploded with understanding of so many different people and places and ideas and beliefs. Does that mean that's where it stops? No, but it's where it begins so that I can then go and connect with people and learn even more. I think about books up there like The Hate U Give, which is my number one recommended that I think every single person on this planet should read. About a young African-American girl who is present when her best friend is shot by a police officer. And how his death affects her, her family, her community, and her school. It will break you apart as you read that story. Or stories like I'm Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter, or The Gauntlet, which has a Muslim lead character, and it is not in a negative way. These are the stories that not only should we be consuming, but that we should be giving to our kids to consume, so that they can understand how important their story is. And if nobody is out there telling a story like them, that looks like them, then they have to get out there and tell their story, because their story matters. Your story matters. And as you begin to read about all these characters from all these different walks of life, you begin to understand how important it is that we take the time to tell our story. Even when we're afraid, even when we feel like our story doesn't matter, and even when we feel like nobody will listen. There is always somebody watching, and there is always somebody listening. So if there's one thing that I hope that you can take away from this today, it's that your story matters. Those 3 words. Be brave today. Step outside of your comfort zone and tell your story.